So we're going to talk about factoring a trinomial when the last term is negative. When the last term is negative, that's going to force opposite signs, positive, negative. So let's look at how that looks on our grid. You know, you can make your own grid. You don't have to be given one. Okay? So I'm going to put my 2x squared in this box. I'm going to put my negative 9 in this box. And I have to figure out what two terms would work to give me a 3x. That's my goal. To do that, I do 2 times negative 9 and get negative 18. Uh-oh, that's different. It's negative, not positive. That means I have positive terms and I have negative terms. Okay? So I'm still going to write my factors like I always would. 1 times 18, 2 times 9, 3 times 6. And I'm going to think about the sign issue now. If my middle term is positive, what that means is that I have more positives than negatives, or that I should. So that means that my bigger number here would have to be positive, and my smaller number would have to be negative. Okay, now I can look and see, do any of these add up to positive 3? Well, negative 1 plus 18 would be 17. That's not going to help me. Negative 2 plus 9 is going to give me a positive 7. And that's great, but that's still not going to help me because I'm looking for the 3. But negative 3 plus 6 gives me positive 3, which is what I need. So these are the two factors that I'm going to use for these boxes. So I can put my negative 3 here or here, but when you put it there, make sure to put your x behind it, wherever you put it. And then the positive 6 then has to go here with the x behind it. Now, sign pattern. You see these two negatives here? That means I'm going to have a negative there. Now I just find my GCFs and I'll be good to go. GCF of 2 and 6 is 2. Of the x squared and x, it's x. Notice how it's always going to work out that way. When you have an x squared here, you're always going to have an x on this corner and an x on that corner. All right, of the 3 and the 9, it's 3. This doesn't have an x, so no x in that last term. These both have x's, right? And the GCF is x. And of 2 and 3, the GCF is 1. I don't have to write that 1, but if you do, it's not wrong. All right. 6 and 9, the GCF is 3. Why didn't I worry about that negative? Because I already dealt with it when I placed that negative there. All right, now what I need to do is go around the outside checking. 3 times negative 3, negative 9. Check. 3 times 2x, 6x. Check. 1x times 2x, 2x squared. Check. 1x times negative 3, negative 3x. Check. So this outside works to give me the inside of my box. So my factored form of this polynomial is 2x minus 3 in parentheses times 1x plus 3 in parentheses. Technically, we shouldn't write that, but if you did, it wouldn't be wrong. All right, let's look at this scenario where there's all this negativeness going on. But it's the same basic situation. Draw my little grid. Put my x squared in, put my negative 12. Now, what's the coefficient of this x squared? What two things would I be multiplying? 1 times negative 12 gives me negative 12. Oh, I have a negative number. That means I have to multiply a positive times a negative. All right, but I won't come back to that in just a second. Factors of 12. 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4. Now's when I look at my middle number. My middle number up there is negative. It's a negative 4. So that means that I have to have more negatives than positives. So in other words, in this case, my big number is going to be negative, not positive. My little number would be the positive one. Okay, well, what do they add up to be? 1 plus negative 12 gives me negative 11. 2 plus negative 6 gives me negative 4. Aha, I've got my answer. I need this negative 4, so I'm going to use these two numbers. I'm going to use a 2 and a negative 6. Remember to put your x's. Look at your sign pattern. Your negatives are running this way, so that negative goes there. GCFs. If you've got x squared here, you're always going to have that x and x right there. The GCF of the 1 and the 6 would just be 1. The GCF of the 2 and the 12 would be 2. The GCF of the 1 and the 2, 1. The GCF of the 6 and the 12, 6. So, does it work? Negative 6 times 2, negative 12. Negative 6 times 1x, negative 6x. 1x times 2, 2x, and 1x times 1x is 1x to the second. Okay, it works. So, how do I write my answer? I don't want to use that 1 because that's a little bit amateurish. So, I'm going to write x minus 6, and I'm going to write x plus 2. And that's the factored form of this polynomial. Hope that helps.